So let's get started. As Sean said, I'm the executive director of Mid-Hudson Energy Transition. We are really focused on tackling climate change holistically. For us, we believe that everyone deserves a just, resilient, stable, and affordable future. And we ensure that sustainability and equity aren't competing goals, but actually inseparable ones. And this is a follow-up to my 2024 presentation that I did for this retreat on equitable decarbonization in practice. And now I have some lessons learned for you all. Um, I'd like to start with where we left off and share the MHET model that we've developed. Then I'll take y'all into some case studies and then finish up with those lessons learned. So, as you might remember, we are based in what is now the Hudson Valley of New York in Kingston, which is a fairly small city, about 10,000 households. And 70% of all of the households in Kingston are classified as disadvantaged. More than half of the homes were built before 1939. So, we're talking like a century of deferred maintenance in a lot of cases. And in our priority census tracts, about 58% of the population is BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, or people of color, and about 62% are Hispanic. And so, where we left off last time was this kind of vicious cycle that low-income households are disproportionately burdened by the current energy system and the effects of climate change. Their homes often require substantial repairs that disqualify them from state energy incentives, and they lack the capital and credit scores and technical expertise needed to adopt clean energy technologies. And really and truly, this is what we heard directly from the community. These aren't our own assumptions. This is, what folks told us. And so we put together this holistic model that combines uh, outreach, education, financing, project management support. But it all starts here. It all starts with outreach and education. Here is our team. And we've put a lot of time and effort into meeting communities where they are. We find that, it is too much to ask for people to come to us. We're going to food pantries and laundromats and places of worship, and we're listening to people. The fact that our outreach team is fully bilingual in English and Spanish makes it much easier for us to build trust in the immigrant communities that are very prevalent here in Kingston, and being available, right? Not just from 9 to 5, because that's when a lot of other people are working too, but being available on after hours and on weekends. And, so much of what we do is braiding and weaving various forms of incentive and assistance programs. And so we've also been helping people sign up for critical support services like their utility bill discount program, which then enables people to get access to further incentives. So finding, a lot of folks are on one program, but not all of them, or they're not on any programs, but they're eligible. And we bring energy education with us all of the time in these really bite-sized formats. How can you air seal or like something small that you didn't know about induction stoves, and really putting it into a digestible format for folks. And so outreach goes out in the community, educates the community, and also brings folks to us for all of our kind of direct service programs. And, a lot of people talk about how do we work with the hardest cases, with low-income folks, with BIPOC communities. And we're doing it, and we're doing it really phenomenally through our home upgrade grant program. And so what this looks like is this is a free project management service for any low income homeowner or renter in the area, where we take them through NYSERDA, the state energy agency. We take them through NYSERDA's Empower Plus program. We get them a free home energy audit. We help them design a scope of work with the contractors. We help stack all available incentives, be it from the utility, the state, federal programs, or our very own home upgrade grants, or our HUGs. And then other assistance programs to continue their work. And so in this program, as I said, we work with homeowners. We also try to work with renters, but we do prioritize homeowners because there's been a lot of displacement. We don't have really good tenant protections for renters when we're making these substantial upgrades. But we do focus on what New York State calls disadvantaged communities, which map pretty well to EJ or frontline communities. We focus on BIPOC folks, folks that have been deferred from other programs, and everyone has to have an area median income of 80% of less or less. And we expect participants to do pre and post surveys, to give us their energy bills, and to share their experience in some form, whether it be writing photos or videos. But that's really it. And so here are just some updated photos of what we're finding in people's homes. There's a lot of mold and moisture intrusion, a lot of, faulty insulation, and a lot of deferred maintenance. And so, what we're able to do by doing this project management ourselves and by braiding all of these different types of funding, as I said, we're able to make our very own grant dollars stretch much further. So, last year we did 64 projects. There were 74 measures within those 64 projects. 28 heat pump water heaters we switched out, 23 induction stoves, 13 weatherization projects, 6 electric panel upgrades, 3 health and safety projects, and 1 air source heat pump. And while we spent $51,000 in our own direct grants, we unlocked $30,000 in utility incentives, $131,000 in NYSERDA incentives, and almost $215,000 in American Rescue Plan Act funding, or ARPA, which brings the total investment in Kingston homes last year through our programs alone to $426,000. Um, and that's exciting, but it's also not enough to get people to electrification. A lot of these appliance swaps were fully funded, grant funded. And to Jamie's point, right, once somebody has access to an electrified appliance, they're more likely to purchase again. And we found induction stoves to be a really great entry point because people interact with it every day. They notice the difference immediately, and it really builds trust. But if you want to get to full electrification, it takes more money. And so we launched the Hudson Valley's first green community investment fund, called the Help Fund. And the Help Fund is a blended capital model. It allows non-accredited investors, so everyday people, not with $1 million of assets or a special financial degree, but non-accredited investors, as well as accredited investors, which you can think of as like impact investors or angel investors. We also allow capital from philanthropy and from corporations. And we have a subsidiary nonprofit with the DBA, the Help Fund, that actually administers the investments. And so, what this actually looks like is we have 3 different investment notes. We have community notes that start at just $100, and you can get up to a 4% annual return over a 2-year term. We have mission notes that have a minimum of $25,000. These are really geared towards philanthropy and towards program related investments, or PRIs, from philanthropy. This is a 0% return financially, but over this 10-year term, it of course has a huge social and environmental impact. And then there's also impact notes, which have a 3% return over a 5-year term, and that is specifically for accredited investors and institutions. And so last year we raised $455,000. And for each of these investments, I'm going to tell you in a second how that actually leads to home upgrades, to local spending, to stronger businesses and stronger communities. But if you look at this breakdown, you can see, we have a pretty solid amount of mission investments and then also grants and donations. Because this is a 501(c)(3) nonprofit, we are able to also accept tax deductible gifts. And so the difference that this makes is huge. When you put your money into a big bank, when you, buy a CD or just put your money into typical investments, you're funding fossil fuels. You're funding the military, you're funding prisons and deforestation and all of these things that we know that we're against, but when I'm just putting it in the bank and I'm not going to look at it, right? It's still doing bad things. But if you put your money into a local community investment fund like the Help Fund, you are directly supporting climate, health, wealth, and housing justice. And you might say, like, well, how is that possible? The capital that we raise in the Help Fund is being used to finance our home energy loan program, or really capitalize our home energy loan program. So we're able to offer highly accessible financing for health and safety upgrades that are required for pre-efficiency or for pre-electrification rather, and for electrification itself. So, what this looks like is a 2% interest loan, which let me just say, I mean, I don't actually think I need to say it, but you're not getting that anywhere else right now. 2% interest loan for low-income folks with no credit minimum, no lien on your home, no collateral, no personal guarantees needed. And we're able to do this through an interest rate buy down from philanthropy. We have $100,000 to buy down the interest rate for the first $5 million that we raise. We also have a loan loss reserve from NYSERDA. It's up to $500,000 in case of borrower defaults. And then we also have a rainy day fund, which is a pot of grant funding that allows us to step in when people have short-term hardships so that they're not being negatively impacted when, inevitably something goes wrong with the car or there's an unexpected medical bill. We can help people when they miss one payment. And all of this I did present on 2 years ago, but it wasn't real yet. It was just an idea. And now we've actually built out all of this. And we can't do it alone. So this is really a partnership-based model. We are a community-based organization. We have the deepest relationships with the community, and we are project managing these decarbonization retrofits for the community. But we partner with a local bank, Ulster Savings Bank. They do the servicing for these loans. On the philanthropy side, as I mentioned, we have an interest rate buy down, and then also the partnership with NYSERDA. And this is one of the quotes from one of our first borrowers. This program is exactly what working families in Kingston need. I've wanted to upgrade my insulation for years, and help made it possible. The monthly payment was manageable for my budget, and MHET helped me through every step. And so we really are focusing on how can we provide carrots, not sticks? Like, how are we not penalizing people for having a low credit score, but rather actually assisting them in having the tools needed to make this work. And so we do have that support for financial hardship, as I mentioned, as well as incentives for on-time payments. And this is a really cool development. So, what that incentive looks like for 2026 is every 3 months that borrowers make successive on-time payments, they get 25 currents. And the Hudson Valley current is actually a local currency that can be used, traded. Unsurprisingly, only places in the Hudson Valley take this. And so it really ensures that this benefit that's given to them is used in the community. It's not $25 that we're giving them that they're going to go spend at Amazon. And we worked with a local restaurant here, Tilda's, that put together this produce basket that folks can get for 25 currents, or they can go spend it at another local business that they'd like. And so we've started to make, real impact. We've had cases where we had to clear out a huge amount of household belongings, remediate a ton of black mold, repairing window leaks and replacing it with energy efficient windows. We've installed insulation and air sealing, upgraded old wiring. And today I am really proud to announce that we're at $970,000 in the help fund that is able to be lent out. We are so close to our first milestone of $1 million, and are definitely accepting grants, donations, and investments. And you can do that at investinhelp.org. But here's what we're seeing, and we're very early on. So we have foreclosed loans at this point. Um, and a few applications in the works right now. The average amount requested is around $10,500. So far, we have 100% on-time payments, and we've dispersed 27,000 to local contractors. Because we're using this loan loss reserve from NYSERDA, 49% of the loan can be used for health and safety measures. And then the rest of the loan has to be some form of solar, renewables, building efficiency, heating and cooling, or an Energy Star appliance. Um, and so we've have run into this as actually a barrier because if we want to accrue the loan losses from NYSERDA, we have to limit this health and safety portion, which is a big amount of the cases that we're seeing and the issues that we're seeing. So let me tell you about two cases that we have. The first is a moderate income Kingston homeowner who's lived in Kingston for 13 years. He was looking for financial support to replace appliances, improve his home's efficiency for himself and his children. And the work that he was able to get through us was insulation, air sealing, weatherization, a heat pump water heater, and an induction stove, along with a panel upgrade and related permits. And the total project cost was $24,000, but this is what the capital stack looked like. So there was $13,000 in New York State incentives, primarily through the Empower Plus program. There was a $2,000 American Rescue Plan incentive that paid for his induction stove, a $3,000 MHEC grant, and this borrower only needed to take out $6,000, about $55 a month for 10 years of loan payments, but got $24,000 of work done in his home. In this second case study, we have a low-income Kingston homeowner that actually worked with us 3 years in a row. So the project that I'm going to outline on the next page was air sealing and weatherization, air source heat pumps. We put in some mini splits, as well as a door replacement, which seems very random, but it disqualified this family from getting NYSERDA incentives because it was bringing down the efficiency so much. And this borrower in the past had gotten $12,000 of air sealing work from us and insulation work. That was also through NYSERDA, but that was in 2024. And last year got a heat pump water heater. And he said, my window units didn't work great and were loud. I was spending $500 a month on for oil with the payment plan that he had been on. And so for this particular project, he accessed $19,000 in New York State incentives, only needed a $250 MHEC grant, which actually went towards the permits that we couldn't technically put in the loan. And his loan amount was $7,000, about $64 a month for 10 years. And while this project total cost was 26,250, his lifetime value of projects that he's done with MHET has been $44,000, and he's only had to pay $7,000 out of pocket with our 2% interest loan, and his home is now fully electrified. So this was a huge milestone for us to be able to get to a point where we're working with people for 3 years straight and we can get their home to be all electric. But the family could not be happier. The temperature is better. They love the water heater. They love the induction stove. And it's just really great to see it working. So with these last few minutes, I will try to run through some lessons learned, program by program. So, on the outreach and education side, there's always some enrollment barriers. You know, connecting with historically harmed groups means that people are going to be, with good reason, distrustful. Um, we have dealt with ghosting after follow-ups. You know, we can bring in leads all we want, but if they never pick up the phone when we give them a call, then that becomes a barrier. Also, survey fatigue and drop off. We have folks engage in pre and post surveys so that we can measure our own impact. But as folks go through multiple rounds of our program, you can imagine there's a bit of that survey fatigue, and they just want to say, "Listen, I love it." Like, do I need to keep saying that? And then finding new community spaces and making sure that we are diversifying our approaches. And so some of the improvements that we're making, one, we have a community council. It's made up of 11 folks, mostly BIPOC, mostly low income, that we meet with every single month. They help us design our programs. They make sure that we're responsive to on the ground happenings. And we've been working with them to identify new community anchors, or not new community anchors, but new to us community anchors in the Midtown community where we're focused. We've been optimizing our HubSpot CRM and our Asana task management software so that the outreach team can stay up to date with their many leads. And I will say, we are a systemified, optimized nonprofit. I know that the reputation that nonprofits get is that it's a hot mess on the operation side, but I would love to tell or teach anyone how we use Asana, how we use HubSpot. Shout out to Kyra Schasberger, our director of comms and systems, because our systems are so phenomenal and streamlined, and I just, yeah, we could not do it without that. So that's an important note. We've started using new workflows to pre-fill these surveys so that we can address some of the survey fatigue. And then also, of course, co-hosting events with new partners and promoting our own office as a space for people to gather or problem solve and connect. On our home upgrade grants program, decarbonization barriers still exist. At times, there's electrical capacity and panel constraints. I love what I've learned actually at these zero carbon retreats about kind of the myth about needing to always upgrade to a 200 amp panel, but I don't think it's as widely accepted, especially with contractors who will insist that you do need to upgrade. Um, there's still high costs for whole home retrofits. There are definitely legacy hazards that can be uncovered mid-project, and permitting and shifting program rules, especially on the NYSERDA side, have significantly disadvantaged us. One of which is there's two income tiers for the Empower Plus program, tier one and tier three. Why did they skip tier two? We don't know. Tier one is very low income, and you can get up to 100% of your project covered. Now it's up to $14,000. But if you're tier three, you used to get up to $5,000. Now you can get up to $7,000, but it requires a 50% cost share. So you used to be able to use the grant money to just do, the very first thing. But now if you want to unlock 5,000, there are $5,000 of out-of-pocket costs. So it definitely hurts the ability for projects to move forward. But at the same time, because of our loan program, we're finding that to be a pretty good gap filler at this point. Some of the improvements that we're making, we're building out our brain trust of industry experts to weigh in on complex projects, and really having the knowledge to kind of get to some of these creative workarounds, right? So that we're not always paying the top dollar to, make everything perfect, but how can we make it okay enough so that we can serve more people? We're always looking for more people to add to our brain trust. So I know there's a lot of talented people on this call. Please reach out. We would love to pick your brain. We are continuing to braid new funding sources, whether it's the Restore program federally, better coordination between Empower Plus and the Weatherization Assistance Program, etc. We have it started, well, we didn't start from the beginning. We've always had this 10% contingency on our help loans for these just in case scenarios when something is uncovered during the project management process or construction. We also have developed an emergency fund to address rapid end of life replacements of inoperable fossil fuel equipment. So somebody's water heater goes down and they're about to go out and purchase another one because that's what they think they have to do. And we like step in and we flag it and we're like, please no, do not get another fossil fuel water heater. We will buy you one for free, so that they're not locking themselves into 10 more years of fossil fuels. And then taking projects in phases, right? A whole home retrofit for a low income family is really, in most cases, not possible in one fell swoop, but we can take it piece by piece, year over year, and still get people to that end point. In terms of our home energy loan program, as I mentioned, we do need funding options for just health and safety measures that are required pre-electrification. When we're dealing with folks that are low income, really monthly payments feel accessible if they're less than $100, which does limit the largest loan sizes. And of course, folks feel like this is too good to be true. What do you mean 2% interest? I don't trust the bank. Like there have been historical injustices. The reputation of a loan is that it's going to be predatory, but actually this is the least predatory option available. And so we're working with our HUG team to use our very flexible home upgrade grants, our HUGs, to cover mainly those health and safety pieces. We're also exploring a health and safety only loan product. We're building new partnerships with organizations that support a longer financial wellness journey with our borrowers and dedicated financial counseling, right? It's not what we do, but we kind of pass people off. And we're developing not just like these incentives that are like $25 in a local currency, but actually trying to develop wealth building incentives for those on-time payments. If you were here in 2024, you remember me talking about solar notes. And then, just using outreach and education to continue to build trust and awareness. And our lessons learned on the Help Fund is like, more important than ever, having strong partnerships with the local banks, having community investment funds like this that is resilient even when federal funding fails, right? GGRF money is being pulled back, but our fund is thriving because it is local people. It is quite literally our neighbors that are putting money into this. And raising funds locally actually creates mission-driven investors. When people see that there is another option, they want to take it. And when they see the impact locally, they want to continue to be this type of investor. And then just engaging non-accredited investors, people that don't consider themselves a part of the energy transition. And I'll wrap it up by saying we're just getting started. We're working on thermal energy networks. We're working on community-owned solar projects and more robust community planning. I want to thank you. I know I fit a lot into 30 minutes, but this is our website. This is where you can invest. And here's where you can find us on social media. I so appreciate the time.